Welcome to Big Blend Radio with your hosts, Lisa and Nancy, editors of BigBlendMagazine.com.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to Big Blend Radio's Writers Wednesday show. We air this every second Wednesday with our friends over at Books Forward, and you can check them out at booksforward.com. But today we're very excited. We're welcoming Barbara-Pagano on the show. Her new book is coming out on July 17th. You're going to want to get it. It's called The 60-Something Crisis, How to Live an Extraordinary Life in Retirement. So I'm just saying, I'm so young, but I find this book helpful at this time. So I want you to go to our website, yourextraordinarylifeafterretirement.com. So welcome, Barbara. How are you?
I'm very good this morning. Thank you very much.
It's great to have you here. Now, did I pronounce your last name, correctly? Because I wanted to go Pagano.
Oh, you did it right. Yes, it's Pagano.
Okay, I like it. It's got some my last name is Smith. So anytime anyone's got a name other than Smith, I'm ready to roll.
Okay.
But I'm not getting married again.
Oh boy.
Just saying.
Look at
you
that.
never know.
Already.
You could do that. Okay, let's just talk about that. So you
Live
retire.
confessions.
There's a lot of people who get married after retirement.
Oh, they get married or they hook up some way and don't get married, but have a very committed relationship. Very interesting.
I've had relationships in the past. I always said, okay, well, if we're both available at that time later down the road, we'll do it. It's weird. It's true though.
The older couples that have gotten together in one way or another and maybe aren't married, but are in a committed relationship are some of the happiest people that I have interviewed.
Yeah. You interviewed a lot of people for your book. It must have been fun.
I did. And they just gave me insights. They gave me confidence in what I was feeling and what I was discovering in my research. So their stories are very, very much a part of this book.
I love that because I think it's so important to go outside, who we are as individuals to learn more from the greater populace. And Nancy and I traveling full time during pandemic time was very interesting during COVID. So we ended up staying at a lot of bed and breakfasts and also pet sitting. So you may hear a dog bark here and there on our shows, and it may be a cat, or future show may have a donkey or chickens. But it's been really, really cool because we get to work and be isolated from people, but and we love animals and gardens and stuff. So it's been really cool. But through this experience, we've had more interaction with people getting ready to retire or newly retired. I mean, at the bed and breakfast table, you're meeting a lot of younger people going to B&Bs that didn't do it before. And you're having this conversation at the breakfast table with all ages. And it's kind of like, it was interesting about you talking about it's like the new boomers where you will find people of all ages at the table talking about TikTok and what they saw on TikTok, or, you know what I mean? So it's kind of, you can't really, at this day and age, I'm starting to feel like people are almost more collected by interest than age in a way.
Oh, yeah.
And I have to jump in and tell you that one of the very exciting but very surprising things that I am learning is that I assumed my market was going to be pre-retirees who were interested in leading an extraordinary life. But my speaking engagements are now an audience from 23 to 65.
Right.
So the younger people who are interested now in looking at life ahead and saying, I need some information about that, and I need to understand what an extraordinary life is. That's been very surprising to me.
Well, we're living a lot longer than what we used to.
Yes.
So we have a lot more years to figure out. And I can understand why. And I think it's a good thing that younger people take a look at the future beyond what their current life moment is, because you're going to be here a lot longer than you think, most of us.
Yes.
And, and you need a plan maybe. Or
And that
not.
and that old model of getting educated and then working, and then that 65 retirement,
Mhm.
hey, it didn't work for me.
Well,
And
Mm-mm.
it's not
what
working
it,
for a lot of people.
well,
Doesn't work for
well,
Nancy at all.
no. Well, first of all, it just sounds really boring unless you are so wealthy that you can go wherever you want, do whatever you want, see the world. Now that would be cool if that's you're just
But
going to
even
go.
then,
Yeah, but where's the purpose?
Well, the finances certainly are
Mm.
at top of mind for all of us who are older boomers.
Mhm.
The number one worry is running out of money in this long run.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But the work that we do, whether it's paid or unpaid, gives us that community that we need for our
Mhm.
health, and also for relevance, that we
Mhm.
know why we're getting up in the morning and still feeling useful. So,
Exactly.
you know, what I talk about is redefining retirement. If you're thinking it's stopping work, to making that a much later age, maybe 85 or 90. But, you know, I'm even reluctant to say 85 or 90, because every day I pick up the media and I have a 90-year-old doing this, or an
Mhm.
87-year-old doing this. So I'm rethinking about even thinking that retirement is 85. If
I
you can,
agree.
if you
Yeah.
have health,
Mm.
and you have all of us have talents that we can give back in some way or another. And so just keep it going. Don't
Mhm.
think about retirement as stopping work.
We have a friend who walked the country. He just, after when he, I guess, retired or quit teaching, he just decided to walk across the country. I mean, you know, on foot, he crossed the entire country, and then he wrote a book about it.
And
You
that's
know,
work. Okay.
yeah,
That's putting
yeah,
your talents
because
to
I
use.
think he was busy and as a teacher, and then all of a sudden he was like, well, now what?
Right.
What do you do all day long? Especially if you're on your own. What do you
So,
do?
yeah, and Nancy, you're making some very good points, and that I think is the reason for the 30 and 40 and 50-year-olds to understand it's not the work that you're doing right now. If you don't love your job, you don't have to think about being in that job for 60 years. But you
Exactly.
do have to think ahead and say, okay, what might I want to do? One of the examples that I give my audience is, if I had known now, if I had known when I was younger
Mm.
that I was going to look at work in a very different way. I love to bake cakes,
Mm.
and I love cake decorating, but
Cool.
I never pursued that. And if I had pursued that earlier in my life, I could be making about $2.50 a shot for these cakes that these kids buy these.
And you
Well,
could be
get
on the Food
started.
Network and on the
Get
Food
started.
Network, and
I
then we
could be
could
on
have
the
watched
Food
you.
Network doing
Yeah.
something I love.
Yeah.
And if I had pursued that and found out if I was really good, or and expanded my skill set, then I would have had another option when I was 65. Fortunately, I love the work that I do, but I try to give people an example. If you love something, go for it a little bit and see if you can quit that job that you sort of like or sort of don't like at an appropriate time, and see what you can do to bring in a little bit of money and make your financial advisor very happy, so you're not digging into that retirement savings for 10 or 20 years.
Yeah, I think this is great too, your timing, because pandemics, look at everybody resigning. Look at everybody going, you know what, maybe I don't need to live on I don't need 10 cars, maybe. I don't, well, I'm exaggerating, but I
Yeah.
don't need all of that I think I need. And I want to, do something that's fulfilling. It gave people time to kind of sort in their brains, like, I really love gardening. And, we know people who now make a living gardening because they really love it. And
Mhm.
so it's kind of, if you don't take those steps, you're never going to know. And what I find really important about your book is when you talk about, being in a career for 60 years, it used to be that you're working for the man for 30 years and your life is dedicated to the man, or the company store. You owe your store sold to the company
Mhm.
store. But now the company store is expanded to, you could be doing that for 60 to 80 years. And that seems miserable about anything. We're the big blend, because we do have many interests, and I think a
Mhm.
lot of people do, but we, just like in marketing, box ourselves into over this, over that, over that. I think we do that to ourselves personally, and the younger generation now, you have this ability to look at things going, I can try different things. What's the best thing to try now? Like maybe you're interested in gardening. Maybe you do want to open a store, but you're going to wait until you get the finances together to open a garden store, something like that, you know? So I see that being really valuable. And talking about our travels, the bed and breakfast people we've met, pretty much the majority, we did 30 bed and breakfasts in just under 2 years that we stayed in and
Mm.
interviewed them all.
Okay.
Majority, I'd say 80%, and
Mm.
that's on the lower portion. I'm going to say 80 to 90
Mhm.
were new owners and
Mhm.
started right before the pandemic
Mhm.
or during,
Right?
right? And they were couples going, we wanted to do something. We left the rat race and we bought into this. It's a smart real estate move, right? We all know that. But
Mhm.
we wanted to do something fun and together and be part of community, because bed and breakfast owners are very much part of the community.
That's true.
They
Right.
know everything. They know all the gossip, let me tell you.
It's
But
cool.
they also get to chat with people from around the world. And that's what, you know, we did in sitting for 3 nights to see what it just
To
again,
see what it was
exactly
like.
what you write about, to see what it was like.
To see
And
what it was like.
it's
Yeah.
fun. And we're gonna do it again because I don't know, we're kind of
It's fun.
nuts. But that's the thing
It's
is
fun.
people are looking at a lot of these couples were on either their second, third, or even fourth and even fifth career.
Right.
So two things are happening. The hottest demographic in the job market is over 65.
Mhm.
So people are coming back to realize that I need to have work in my life in some way or
Mhm.
another. But the other idea that fits perfectly into what you're doing is that if you look at the bonus years that we have, 25 or 30 years now, we're the first generation to ever have that. Are you going to tack that on at the end of and have 30 years of leisure? Or can you fit that in and make that middle section bigger? And people are saying, okay, let me go on that 3-month trip. Let me take a year sabbatical. Let
Mhm.
me stop this job and before I start another job, let me take the time off and do the travel rather than waiting till the end of life and then looking at 30 years of leisure.
And hope and not
Doesn't
being
work
able to hike
Yeah.
to
And
the
I
top
think,
of the mountain. You know
well,
what I mean? So
you know,
that's the other thing.
I think you grow up mimicking your parents. And I mean, I look at like when Lisa's little friends would come over when Lisa was way younger. They were like little munchkins. They're like the Wizard of Oz
They're
people. They
listening
were
to
like,
you right now, Nancy.
I know, hi munchkins. You know, they were like little adults. They were mimicking their parents and they would play, oh, like I remember one game was let's play Strict Mommy. And we're like, I'm watching them and you know, here's a little husband and here's a little wife, and they would do little housekeeping chores and play husband and wife. So they were basically mimicking what they saw at home, which was a real eye-opener, by the way.
Mhm.
And so I think you are almost little adults at 5 years old, 6 years old. You're already starting down the I'm getting old path.
Mhm.
There was more of that kind of play than swinging on swings or playing ball. That was more this weird interaction that I watch with children. I call it weird because I'm like, man, you're not kids, you're little people, you're little adults, you're doing adult things from a childlike perspective, and it was really fun to watch.
Well, one of the things that we have to realize when you are looking at the roles that we play, we because we're the first generation to have this gift of longevity, and along with longevity, we also have health and a little bit of money, for the most part. So now you're looking at role models, and for all of us who are older boomers, there are very few. We're making this up as we go along. We're actually
That's true.
pioneers in trying to figure out how do we live a long life, longer than we've ever thought before. And one of the reasons I looked at 60 is that if you haven't figured it out, this is the figuring out decade. So that you don't get to 70 and go, okay, now what am I doing?
Yeah.
So we're pioneers, we're making it up as we go along, but every day we get a little bit more information or a little bit more another story that kind of opens the door. So it's a very, very exciting time.
I think it's exciting too, because you do have a whole new tool set in regards to the internet. You know, look at technology. You know, a lot of people that I know that are retired, they're not, they can't. They don't have, they're not the type to just go sit in front of the TV and say, I'm retired. They get frustrated if they're like that. But they start, they have Etsy stores, they're writing books, they're traveling, they're volunteering, they're doing something because they just can't sit still. And the internet, from what I've seen, has been this incredible tool that wasn't there. I mean, you've got to think, when we started our magazine in this country 25 years ago, Google wasn't invented yet. And we were going around telling people, at least put your website that you spend thousands of dollars on your business card. You know, we were like getting people, we were doing education about ads in our print magazine at the time. So you've got to think now, I mean, what you want to do is, there's a whole new careers. I mean, people are coming out of college and being managers in social media. Who knew that was going to be a career? So careers are evolving on a daily basis of what you can do. There's careers we don't even know about that are being created right now, today, in this second, which I find exciting.
And if you lost your the promise of what you wanted to do with your life, and you realize in when you're 45 or 50 that you really wanted to go to law school, that's a stretch for me to think about, but you can do it. And
you can.
Or they're going back to college and they're doing different things.
Yeah, you can virtually do it. You can go to a community college at night after work if you really strongly want to do something like that. It's totally possible, where before it really wasn't.
And I think the other way to look at it was in an interview, I had the opportunity to, because I coached a lot of leaders in senior positions in corporations and organizations. When I started down this path, having failed retirement and trying to look around and see if other people were feeling the same thing, there was one interview that is in the book and just stuck with me. I was talking to a senior VP at a very successful professional career, and he's telling me that he retired. He's 2 years into retirement. Some things are going well and some things aren't going as well as he thought. And his comment to me was, Barbara, now don't get me wrong, I'm happy, but I could be happier. And that space between happy and happier is a space that I think all of us can look at. We are, by and large, retirees are a happy group of people. That's what the research says. So let's look at that space now. Could you be happier? And what might that be?
Well, and I think too, depending on how you were brought up, especially for women, I know how I was brought up, that you're going to be a nurse or a teacher if you're going to work at all, but basically go get married and have kids. That's kind of the thought process that my parents had, that women, unless you can be a teacher or a nurse, weren't meant to be in the workforce. And then, you know, different wars come along and things change kind of that outlook on what women are capable and expected to do. That is radically changed. But as a child of today, I think, especially with the internet and parents having to control what their kids see in the media, it's something that my generation, I don't think my parents really controlled the media. Like, maybe you can't put on channel 13 or 14, whatever. You have to watch cartoons. You can't watch this. Maybe that's it for control. You know, and the librarian only let you go to the children's section for books anyway. So, you know, I think those things have kind of gone way out the window. So I think it's kind of a freedom that we didn't have. least the way I was brought up, didn't have that kind of freedom to go get whatever book you want from the library. Not
Right.
until you're like maybe 15, 16, then you could go and librarians wouldn't look at you and ask you your age and that kind of thing. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? It's right. And now with the internet, children they know how to open accounts and get passwords and do stuff. They know how to see whatever they want to see.
And you know, I think you're making a great point, Nancy, that many of us followed a pattern, or we
Mhm.
did sort of what society expected us to do.
Right.
And, you know, we had children and we got married at a certain age and we got the mortgage, and, you know, our daughters aren't doing that. They're doing it very differently, but you and
Mhm.
I did, I followed
Mhm.
that kind of
Yep.
expectation. And
Mhm.
that's what makes the joy of this time of life. If you're in your 40s or your 50s or your 60s, and your parenting responsibilities are pretty much fulfilled, and now you're looking at an opportunity for you and what
Mhm.
you want to do within a marriage, outside of the marriage, in a partnership, solo. Um, it's again a very exciting time.
I think it is like when you say the golden
Mhm.
years now, and I'm not talking about the golden girls, but I love them. But
Yeah,
the
me
golden
too.
years now are like the golden years, and I look at
Mhm.
it, my age going, okay, I'm going towards it's happening. You can feel
Mhm.
when you're in the 40s, you start knowing it's coming,
Right.
Mhm.
And if
Mhm.
you don't look ahead, that's what I was saying about, you were saying that your demographic of speaking is in the 20s, and I think we have to look at
I
that
get that.
now as a younger generation going, okay, we got a long time. What do we want to do? We don't have to be
Mhm.
one thing forever, because that is an incredible weight on your shoulders. And I mean, some people want that. Obviously, Nancy and I are travelers. We want different things all the
All the
time.
time.
Because you're learning. It's about learning. It's about
Mhm.
observing and really realizing how amazing Earth is, right? It's
Mhm.
it's about
Yes.
all these connectivities and all of that. It's not that we're bored. It's just like once you get it, it's like a drug. It is an amazing thing
Mhm.
when you start seeing different plants and animals and different towns and people and similarities
Mhm.
and connectivities. So to me, that's the same thing as what you're talking
Mhm.
Yeah.
about, we are able to choose and do and put the action behind it,
Mhm.
and I think planning it a little bit can help to
Well,
be
Mhm.
successful.
let me give you a perfect example. One of the 2 years ago, before the pandemic, I had an opportunity to do a speaking presentation in front of hairdressers.
Mm.
Okay, in hair salons, and the ages were 23 to 34, something like that. So I'm talking about an extraordinary life. I'm talking about the fact that, your old model of retiring at 65 isn't going to work for you, and you need to find ways that you can supplement some kind of income in work that you love. And I had an opportunity 6 months later to talk to one of those people in the audience who took that advice and understood that, yes, she could be in the hair salon for as long as she wanted to be, but another stream of revenue would be advantageous. So
Mm.
she invested in real estate and is now building her rental property portfolio. So hairdressing, rental properties, all at the age of 30, thinking
Mhm.
Awesome.
about, okay, what do because she loves to flip. She loves to go in and redecorate and do
That's
all that
creative. Yeah.
in addition
Yeah.
to. So
It's
it's a
like
very
doing hair.
creative way to look at, I can have that rental property in my future, and that could be my stream of income that would take me into the golden years in a much better
Yeah.
financial situation than standing on my feet all day at 75 or 80 and doing hair. So
Right.
people
Mhm.
are beginning to think about, okay, what is it that I can do that I might love, and adding it into their lives.
Well, this is a huge
Yeah.
deal because we do so many interviews with musicians and authors
Mhm.
and sports people too. Sports people,
Mhm.
you can't be a football player forever. So
No.
you have to kind of look at,
What else?
your body cannot physically be that foot. Are you going to go into coaching? Are you going to go into something completely different? And You see this in child actors in the entertainment industry.
Mhm.
You see it in musicians. A lot of the musicians I know that are absolutely phenomenal should be, the Rolling Stones style. And yet they're going, oh no, if I did this, number one, some of them will go, if I overdo my passion and it becomes work like my work, it's
Right.
going to ruin it for me, the creative, the joy that I have. But I can be successful in this capacity. It's filling those boxes of joy this way. And I'm going to make my money doing investments or real estate or whatever. So I see that happening a lot in the creative sphere because you don't want your art to be compromised. And so, see, and
I
well,
like that.
no,
I like that.
yeah, you don't want your art
Mhm.
compromised, and
Mhm.
you can doing the marketing side is a grind for a lot of creatives, and yet
Yeah. That's true.
so I see this being, that's why I'm saying your book is so valuable on so many fronts, not just retirement. I
Yeah.
think, and by the way, 65, by the way, if you're my age, don't rely on your social security. I just
No.
go like, just forget it. I'm supporting the
Right.
country. It's my donation.
Yeah, no, because
Your
first,
donation. Whoa.
it's like you read, maybe it's going to be there 10, 20 years from now. Maybe it's not. We
Yeah,
really
you
can't
can't rely
predict.
on it. And a lot of people are retiring early because
And
of
it
social
isn't that
security.
great. I mean, you just don't get that much,
Well, we have a couple of things going on that are challenging.
Mm,
I mean, we're all obviously on the same page, but
Mm.
let's look at, okay, not working is still in a mindset of a lot of people. You work so long and then you retire and you don't work. So we have that challenge of taking working way into the future. The second thing it is, we're not very good about going into the future. Most of us, the research indicates that most of us will think about the future in terms of the next 3 weeks.
Yeah.
We don't think about the future in terms of the next 10 years or the next decade. And many of us, and many of the people in your audience are, hey, they're working hard, they're parenting, their days are very, very full. Taking time out to think about you and what you want to do with the one life that you're given is simply not a very natural thing for us to do. So we have some challenges here when it comes to looking far into the future.
Yeah, because you used to be told, oh, you're just a dreamer. It's a dream. When you look into the future, it's a dream. And it sort of carried like you're not paying attention. That there was a negative, like in the classroom, you're daydreaming, instead of paying attention to the here and now. So we're in a way brought up not to daydream or look into the future. You kind of deal with the here and now because this is real. You don't know what's going to happen in the future, so don't think about it.
One
It's
of the
kind of like
things
that.
yeah, and one of the things that can get people's attention is that if you get to the age of 65 and you ask the question, what's next? You're already in trouble. Okay, you should have been asking this question. The question should never be asked. And that's what got me into trouble is working and playing. And then all of a sudden I'm 65 and okay, and
Now
my
what?
friend said, well, you've had a good life now, Barbara. You need to give back to your community.
It's like
And I thought, well, I've
you're
been
already
doing that.
done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
You've had a good life. It sounds like,
right.
okay, you're done.
What's that TV show,
Bye-bye.
that British TV comedy, One Foot Over the Grave?
Yeah, one foot in the grave or one foot. Yeah.
It's like, because he was retired and he was crotchety over it too.
Okay. And people will say, when you get to that age of 65, that what next question is something people will ask you. Oh, okay, you're 65. When are you going to retire? And what's next?
Yeah.
And that's built into our society right now. So I think that we're also advancing faster than society is changing. So hopefully, with your work and the work that I'm doing, we can at least alert some people that, hey, thinking about your 60s and 70s and 80s and 90s,
It's a good idea.
It's a really good idea. because
Financially,
be
it's
there.
it's
It's a-
huge because there's so many people on going back to the Social Security conversation. Like, I can't look at that as going to be something. You've got to have investments. You've got to have, your 401ks or all of whatever you want to do on that. Everyone's got their advisor kind of people for that. But you got to realize if you're going to live longer and longer, anything can
Mhm.
change. We've had pandemics that changed the economy. We could
Mhm.
go through a depression. We could go through anything. And so I'm not trying to be the fear of gloom or anything, but it's about being realistic. Your money has to last all those years. You can't just
Mhm.
go, I'm 65 and now I'm going to live till 100. I mean, look at the oldest park ranger was just retired over 100 years old from
Wow, I
Richmond,
didn't know that. Isn't that
Rosie, she was
cool?
at Rosie the Riveter National Historical Site, over 100. Betty, yes. I mean, she's this famous park ranger, and she was still
Mhm.
smiling and still greeting guests into the National Park Service
Mhm.
unit. So, I mean, over 100 years old, and I think because she was doing such an amazing career that she loved, and she
Mhm.
was standing up for
She's
women's
healthy.
rights. I mean, you've got to think about this was a park of where Rosie the Riveter got started. You're thinking about these women who said, oh yeah, we don't need to sit at home and bake cookies while there's a war going on. We're going to do things and do it differently. So I
Mhm.
think there's a spark in there for her that kept her going for so long. Also being an African American woman in that position, she's like, hey, check this out. And she was this, she's still alive. Inspiration. Look at Betty
Mhm.
White, for God's sake. She never
Right.
stopped. You
Never
know what I
stop.
mean?
Yeah.
So it's to me, you can't go 65. People are like, oh, get your Social Security. So a lot of people did that, but that's not, anything can happen. Like for me, I cannot look at that as, I mean, I don't know, I just don't trust it. But I have to look at our career and what
Mm.
we do as being something that, that I want to do. I mean, that's why we do what we do now. Why wait? So
See as much as you can.
see as much as you can, do as much as you want and what you love, but you cannot sit there and hope your money will last through
Mm.
times
Yeah.
like you can if you're working and producing and bringing income in.
Well, in
Everyone's
addition,
different,
yeah.
so but I'm, you know what I
and
mean.
in
But
addition to that finances, we have this huge loneliness epidemic going on with older people. That's another good reason to stay active in your work for the community.
Mhm.
That and one of the things that I talk about, which I want to talk about with you, one of them is geography of place, but I also will talk about kinship and the fact that we haven't made enough friends for a lifetime. So making friends becomes an extraordinarily important thing to do in every decade, not just to rely on the friends that you've already made, but to continue to make friends throughout your lifetime to make sure that you have enough at the end. So, one of the researchers, actually several researchers, and this always gets the audience attention, is that you should have 3 best friends. Now, that's a lot. Okay.
It is.
And that doesn't count your spouse or your partner. You've got to have 3 friends that you can call on when you're having a bad day or something needs to be talked over. And that's a pretty big number for a lot of people. And we need to look very, very carefully. And if I had 3 and I just lost 1, wow, now I only have 2. And so
it's like your board of directors. It's your board of directors. It is. It's your board of directors because friends, really good friends, are very honest, and will help you through something and say, well, maybe you could have handled it this way, if they asked, or advice isn't, you can't, no, especially, as you get on in years, you get the wisdom and experience, and you don't want fluff. You want the real stuff.
And you also get separated. I mean, we live all over the place
that's
now.
absolutely right.
And so the little tiny town that you grow up in, if you grew up in a tiny town and you thought you're going to live your whole life there and have that same set of friends, it doesn't happen that way anymore, I don't think. It might for some.
Daniel Pink just came out with a book in February.
Mm.
He's always looking for the next big idea. He's a very great author. I like what he does. It's called The Power of Regret. And he established the World Regret Survey, 150 countries, 15,000 people. And then he analyzed those results. Some of our biggest regrets are around those friendships that faded away. That either because of geography or because maybe there was a loss of interest or maybe there was a falling out, but we regret not connecting with those people that we were friends with. So geography plays a huge part in losing those friendships, but we can do something about that. We can reconnect with those people.
Oh, especially with the internet now.
Right.
I mean, before that was a lot more difficult. Like we moved countries. We've lived in how many countries now, Lisa?
Well, yeah. Well, but on the friend side, like I just reconnected. We've seen each other on Facebook and everything, but we actually had to find each other, having lived in South Africa and going through some crazy times, and then coming over here. We all kind of lost each other, and we found each other through things like
The
Facebook
internet.
and everything. And I just now am actually going to see my high school bestie from over 30 years ago. This year she's coming to this country
That's a great
with her daughter,
example.
and to see each other. And here's the thing, this is like your high school friends. There's no getting out of anything there. I mean, that's talk about reality of knowing. I mean, she was like, are you still playing music? Are you still? I'm like, oh my God, I forgot, like you knew that, I forgot that you knew all these aspirations that we have. And I think, I was thinking, we were watching a comedy thing the other night, and there was a high school reunion thing. And I thought, why are people doing high school reunions going backwards? And then I thought, because all these weird things come out, oh my gosh, but isn't it important to help us remember who we were and what our aspirations were as youth?
And you know what I found it exciting about? I didn't start going to my high school reunions until the 25th. And then my husband said, you've got to go. And since then, I understood the importance of doing that. But what I discovered is that if I liked you when I was a teenager, I still like you as a grown, there's still a connection there. And so that was, that's a very exciting thing to be able to do. And I had 1,000 in my graduating class. So there's a lot of people to reconnect with, but a lot of people to meet on, that you haven't really known before. So it's a great opportunity to connect with people who've grown up in the same community that you've grown up in.
It makes you kind of also self-reflect. Did you do the things you wanted to do? When you would talk about, okay, that time frame in the 60s, all right, that's our next wave. We can do something that we maybe put off in the back burner. And I think your friends from high school know that. They know the truth of that.
Oh, sure,
you were
they
trying
do.
this and that. And then life happens, children happen, careers happen. But hey, you always had this interest in this, So I think that's the, and when you see each other, we all look at each other as teenagers. So when we didn't age a bit.
Yeah.
So that's a big part of it. But I do want to go to in your book, the regrets thing. I think that is a huge thing. And I think reading your book, you would talk a lot about that part. And I think that's a very personal thing too, when someone actually realizes regret and feels it. And I think getting, like, if people need to get your book to get moving, because you could wallow in the regret, or you could get off your butt and do something about it.
You can go and do. You can pretty much do, unless it's something really, really crazy, you can pretty much do whatever you want now. I mean, you can learn on the internet. You don't have to go to college if you don't want to. You can take classes over the internet. You can learn to do the cakes. You can learn pretty much everything on the internet now. It's an amazing time to be able to recapture what you think or have told yourself or talked yourself out of doing for whatever reason. So there's really no reason not to reconnect or go after what you wanted or were interested in when you were in high school or junior high school.
Well, one of the absolute driving forces for me personally and for the work that I do is that the research says for the last 60 years, the biggest regret is this. You're at the end of your life, you're in hospice, and you're looking and you're reflecting, and the biggest regret, said in different kinds of words, is that I didn't live the life I wanted to live.
Mhm.
Whoa, guys.
Yeah.
And when I said, wow, have we learned nothing in 60 years that we're still getting to the end of life? And that is the big regret. And I'm not going to do that. I'm going to get to the end of my life and look and say, gave it my best shot. Okay. Gave it my best shot. And that's what I want everybody to do. So when you're talking, Nancy, about try what you want to try, do what you want to do, we all have responsibilities, whether it's to aging parents or to children or to mortgages or whatever. But we can find those places. And God bless us, we don't know whether the end of that life is going to be tomorrow or the next day. So we've got to make every day count.
It's true. It's true.
I don't understand why we can't get to the end of life and say, wow, I did my best. I gave it my best shot.
That's what I'm running for, because like, honestly, I tell people, like, people go, you're nuts doing what we do. I mean, yes, last year we crossed the country 4 times and that didn't even go the up down part of the country.
Yeah,
you know?
we
So
went back and forth.
I think probably 10 good full on stretches of driving and silliness and like, but we saw things, we met, we worked, I mean, it was full on, and you get your moments where you just absolutely crash and you're tired. And then I go, you know, people are like, well, how do you handle, I'm just like, dude, I'm going to skid in. I'm skidding in.
Yeah.
I don't care if there's still gummy bears stuck in my teeth from driving and eating my gummy bears. I'm skidding in because I'm not sitting. I can't sit on the couch. I'm not good at it. I have to multitask even sitting on the couch.
Okay,
I got to skid in.
What we have to realize is that if you're coaching a pre-retiree who is looking now at closing out their career, and they are looking at the next 30 years, and you ask a question about, well, what do you see yourself doing? Sometimes the answer to that draws a complete blank.
I can imagine that.
They have, and not to be down on that person because they've been very busy. Some people will say, well, you know, I haven't really thought about that, or I'm not really sure. Or so we have a moment in time here that it looks to me like the two of you have sort of figured out what makes you happy and you're going for it. But we also, for those people who haven't taken the time, we have to say, okay, you have the freedom now to find that moment, to think about the future and answer some real good questions for you. And, you know, that's something that a lot of us have not done, myself included. I got to 65 and then started asking the questions.
And you can redefine it. And that's my thing is it isn't,
you can change it up.
Started, you can change it every single time. And that is the beauty of your book is, hey, you can start something. If it doesn't feel good,
do something else.
Do something. I mean, really, that's the thing. Like you're saying, we're here once, unless we reincarnate. But you know, we may come back as a cockroach. I don't want to do that. But you know, you never know. But as we know it, for right now, you've got one life, and even if we have 10, you still want to use all 10 really well, and have a good time and do good. So I love your book because it allows people to have more than a second chance. You can keep redefining and changing. You know, you go, oh, maybe you want to do, you bake cakes, and then you all of a sudden you start the cake business, and it's like, okay, this is now just too much, and this was not how I wanted it to roll. Well, you can say, okay, I'm going to do one cake thing a year instead of all the time. You know what I mean? You're allowed to change what you need, as long as you don't hurt people.
Exactly.
To change things, you know. And that's the beauty of this and what you've written. And I do want to talk about sailing, but go ahead. I know you would.
Okay, I
thinking
have,
about Kate
I
too.
have one thing that I just want to connect.
Yeah, yeah.
Because one of the, I have established 4 portals. I call them portals because they're doorways. You jump down, you kind of look around, you kind of ask yourself some questions and you figure out some things. Then you jump back up and you jump into another portal, and you're going to get answers and guidance and maybe not a roadmap, but you're going to get a horizon. And one of the very important portals to jump down is finding your geography of place, finding the place where you want to be that makes you happy, that you get up in the morning and you say, I'm glad I'm here. And that connection between geography and happiness. Now, I don't know if you guys are just happy in all your places, or if you have certain places that make you happier than others.
Well, there's a whole other thing off air that we can talk about.
Okay. But finding that geography of place, whether it's for some people, it's the ocean, it's the mountains. For other people, it's the excitement of New York City and the deli down the street.
You're
But
really right.
geography plays a huge part in our well-being. And the
It is. It's true.
I forget his name. I forget the author's name. He wrote Stumbling on Happiness. 3 important decisions that we make: where to live, who to live with, and what we're going to do. And so that where to live or where to be is, you know, and you're enlightening people with a little bit of information about all these places. I asked a guy one time it was actually a man, I shouldn't call him a guy. And I said, well, what are you thinking about doing when you retire? And he said, well, I'm thinking about moving to Arizona. And I said, where? And he said, well, I don't know. I haven't been to Arizona. Okay, guys. Okay. Let's start visiting around here and find that. And it's different for all of us. My husband loves Pensacola, and right now.
Oh, I still live there. Yeah.
Yeah. So we have to find our geography of place, that place that just fills our psychological needs, as well as what other needs we have, whether it's community or whether it's an artistic endeavor, or whether it's architecture, or no matter what it is. So I didn't want to leave our conversation making that connection.
It's really huge, because even as we travel, we have friends going, I'm looking for retirement places, look out this and get, you know, where are you? You know me, you know, and it's really true. And there are some places, and I'm not going to say the city. I just, you know, the sailor mouth, get me out of here now. Like, I need out. You know exactly what I'm talking about, Nancy. Like, I don't care. We have an opportunity to stay. Let's stay another night and make it easier on the drive. Heck, no, I am out of here. I don't care that it's 2 a.m. We're going. And that's that. And it was just one of those places that everything rubbed me the wrong way. Then there's places that, oh my God, it is like you're just in, this is heaven. Like, you know, yeah, you can live here. And so there are places as we travel that, and we're different. She's different than I'm different, but it's always nature. And so it's very interesting on our travels. We're always going to new places because we're documenting as many parks and public lands as we can. But there are places where you just keep circling back, and they draw you in. The people, the food, the nature, the opportunity, it just certain areas suck you in.
Well, they have
we
a
did this in South
personality.
Africa. There's something that sucks you in, and it just, you didn't plan it, but it just, things just kind of snowball, and it's weird, but it's cool.
Find those places by looking at the best place to live lists.
No,
it doesn't work that way.
You gotta go there.
Go to those places.
Yeah, because it has, each place has its own smell, and it's got its own weather, and it has its own personality for sure. And then you have like-minded people seem to congregate at the same kind of place. They like the same kind of things. So when you come into a community and you feel comfortable and it's warm and friendly, then you know, okay, these are, for the most part, my kind of people. Not everyone, of course, but there's a like-minded thing. Like when people go to a concert, it's to see or hear this kind of music. Not every kind of music, but they all like that particular band, that particular kind of music. So everybody goes happy, you know, because they're doing something they already know they like. It's the
So
same when you
people
go
need
to
to
live
go on
somewhere.
the hunt and find these places for themselves.
Mhm.
Now,
Yes.
it could be that where you live right now is your geography of place. You're on the
Mhm.
farm, you love the farm, and you
Mhm.
know in your heart that that's where you want to be. But most of us have some work to do and find the place that is going to be good for us. And
I'll be your
so,
guide. I'll take you. I'll be your tour guide. I've got a new
all right.
career, taking
And,
people
you know,
around the country.
with what's going on now and what we're doing right now, I can be in my geography of place, you can be in your
Mhm.
geography of place, and we can still work and do all the other things that are important
Mhm.
to get us to an extraordinary life. So
Mm.
what you do, just even, you know, just if somebody just hears something that like dings something and say, gee, I really like that, maybe I need to go there. Wow.
Mhm.
Mm.
Yeah.
You're opening up their minds.
I
Mhm.
do want to go back to one of the things you were talking about, connectivity and loneliness, and how important connectivity is. When we got back to this country, you know, Nancy had the magazine in South Africa, and then it was like, okay, start over. We'll never do that again. It was so much work. Well,
So much
hello.
work and like
That
never
that
doing that again. and
that
here
that
we are.
that worked. Anyway, so
Yeah.
we and you were, and it kind of jogged my memory when you said Pensacola. We still live out in the Panhandle,
Mhm.
and also all throughout Florida. And we started working for a company that taught musical organs, but also sold organs. And it turned out to be kind of a scam, but we didn't, it was not a scam. It was just
Careful.
yeah, I don't, well, let's just put it this way. They're worse than car sales. And I did both
Okay.
to see.
Mhm.
So
Okay.
yes, so retirees, exactly what you're talking about here. We're retired, now what to do? And you stand in the mall and you play the musical organ, and then, hey, you haven't learned an instrument. Oh yeah, and this is an easy one. You push this button, it'll play in the mood, the beginning and the ending, and it'll help you play, you know.
Mhm.
So this was actually a very cool thing. We're both musicians, and so,
Mm.
and it was mostly musicians were in this
It
field.
was fun.
And there were classes, you had lifetime lessons, there were students coming in, there was wine time. So there was community, there was education, and it was great. The thing that I didn't like is they were trying to upsell people into organs that they couldn't even afford.
Right.
And so when you hear
Yeah.
about limited income for retirees, at this point, they were
Yeah.
we're at a different generation now, right? And this
Mhm.
was true. So there was some negatives on that.
Yeah.
But the positives, we watched as, you know, people lost their spouse who had passed
Mhm.
away. We
Mhm.
watched people be able to slowly reconnect through the healing power of music, but it
Mhm.
wasn't just they're sitting at home. They could have parties. We'd go and perform at parties. I mean, the music,
Mhm.
the organs were easy and they're beautiful. They're
Yeah.
awesome.
Awesome.
We'd go
Mhm.
and perform and have help them play their special song. And so it was community.
It was cool.
There were concerts, there was this whole thing. But we also watched people go through having a stroke, and the
Mhm.
community would rally around and watch their fingers be able to
Mhm.
move because they had this thing together, and nobody was judging. It was a place of moving forward and enjoying the music. And if you could only play one
Mhm.
song and that's all you could do, that's okay. You know, if you only want to do one finger, you could. But it was everyone in the shared interest,
Mhm.
and majority didn't know what to do in retirement. Some still worked, some, everybody was a little different, but the most powerful thing I saw where people who had lost their spouse be able to find a
Connect.
community again. And also there was one lady who became a rip-roaring alcoholic. So we had, you know, whenever we had gatherings, we had to hide the wine.
Okay.
But the power of music, and it was the community who, she just went through a stage because she lost her husband, you know.
Mhm.
But it was not good. We watched her change in a positive way. It was like, you're going to lose this community if you don't stop this. And she did stop that. She got really good at the organ. She made
Mhm.
so many lifelong friends. And it was this beautiful, it was just beautiful, you
Mhm.
know. So I watched firsthand and was part of seeing people positively change, going from, I don't know what I want to do, to at least I have this at this
Blossom.
part, I'm happy, and
Mhm.
find community, a different community. Because the other part we saw was people leaving their work community. And once you've retired out of that, it's like, here's your retirement party, here's your cake.
Mhm.
Bye-bye.
Barbara's going to make it, by the way.
Mm.
And but then all of a sudden start to fade away from those workplace friends.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
that was another part of what we saw with
But
this training.
the store that we worked at, there the common denominator was the love of music.
Mhm.
And people who thought they would never ever, they all came. It's like I used to teach art, and all the students always said the first thing, I can't draw a straight line. And I would say that's good, because we don't want straight lines in art. We don't like them. We like curves. We don't like perfection. We want things to be free and lively. And everybody that came in and learned to play in the musical organs found that they had a lifelong love of music, and they could play any style of music, any instrument they want, just by playing this organ and touching a button and changing the sounds. So all these people gathered together for the love of one thing that was really important to them, which turned out to be music. And it was cool.
One of the things that those two examples from both of you tell me and resonate with me is that no matter your age or your situation, you have the power to change.
Mhm.
You can change you,
Mhm.
change your situation, you can change your outlook. And, working with leaders for many, many years who were already successful at what they were doing in terms of their leadership, but yet if they did one or two things differently with some help from a coach, they got better. They could do the leadership better. And all of us have the power, no matter what our situation is, and really no matter what our finances are either, whether it's learning music or changing a behavior, we have that power within us. And one of the things that the research is telling us is that after 70, if we're not working and we're alone, our self-confidence goes straight downhill. So we lose that confidence that we have in ourselves, the power of change, and we have to get that back. So I love those two examples.
It's invigorating. You went sailing with your daughter over
Yeah.
2,000 miles.
Scary.
Like, what the heck, man? Like, where did that be in your come from in your bonnet? How did that happen?
9/11 happened. My calendar, my leadership calendar, and all those conferences just went kind of dead. And my daughter was visiting, and she was looking at a 10-year on-off relationship and a job that she really wasn't that happy with. And really, in my lifetime, at that particular point, anything that I was doing pretty much wasn't very scary. I mean, I could do it. I had done it before. I had confidence I could do it, but I really wasn't doing anything outside of my comfort zone. And so the opportunity, I had my husband and I had cruised for years. Cruising means that you're anchored at 3:00 in the afternoon. And if you do go sailing the next day, you can see the island that you're going to. But we had not done any extensive sailing at all. I had docked the boat maybe 3 times. And all of a sudden, I just felt this, wow, I wonder if I can push that little boat through the water. And I wonder if I can do that. And I thought, well, that's really scary.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I don't know if I could do it. But that was one of the little kernels of doing something I wasn't sure that I could do. And then the other kernel was, I'm going to regret this if I don't try. I'm going to look back and say, I had the opportunity when the calendar was down and the boat was right there. And all I had to do was get in that boat and just go. But I don't want to say that it was easy, because it wasn't, but that was the point. That was the point. And was I scared? You bet I was scared.
I bet.
But that also was the point, was to get, but here's what I learned. If you really, really, really want to do something, It doesn't matter what your skill set is. People will help you.
That's
We
true.
had books on board. We learned how to ask for help. If you have high desire to do something, then your skills will rot. Now, are we perfect sailors? I never did learn those knots. I think I put that in the note. I never did learn those
Did
knots.
you need them?
Well, yeah, you sort of needed them at certain times. But you know, a knot to me was a knot. I never learned that special knot for this and that special knot for that. But learning something new every day and having to make decisions based on the information that you had. And if you make a mistake in a sailboat, you're going to know immediately that was a mistake. And then also the opportunity, and I'm sure, Nancy, that you can identify with this. I had an opportunity to spend 24/7 for 6 months with my only adult child.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
And that was very, we did not declare a captain. I didn't know any more about being a captain on that boat than she knew about being a captain on that boat.
Wow.
So the opportunity to kind of do something together with an adult child, it was really important to me. So, yeah, we ended that. And the hardest part was getting off the boat.
Oh, that's cool. You know,
Wow.
but I think it's so cool that it's a challenge and you do it together. And you said, you know, asking for help, which I think is also something so difficult for people to do, is to ask for help.
I wasn't
And
good at that, Lisa.
it's hard, especially if
before I
you're a
left on that
go-getter.
trip.
But again, I
Yeah.
think you're raised, you're not supposed to.
But if your water
know.
tanks are leaking or your engine's not starting,
You need
you
help.
don't have any choice but to
Yeah.
get on the radio and say, this is us. Can anybody help? And people do. They help
do.
you.
People want to help, and it's not a weakness.
true.
I think it's a weakness to not help. I think, you know, and to not ask. And we were raised in, like, if you ask for help, you're weak and you don't know
Yeah.
what you're doing. But I think asking for help, it is
It's
just
smart.
you see humanity, and the more we don't ask for help, the less we see what humanity is capable
And
of.
I think people get desperate, you know, when you could just ask for help.
Right.
And you ignore that you could, you get desperate, and that's when people do things they really shouldn't
get in
do,
trouble.
didn't intend. Yeah, you do. You get into trouble.
And the other piece of that is that we were sailing along and the hot water heater downstairs in the galley just kind of starts spewing hot water, and we're under sail. And all of a sudden, I see my daughter just kind of, you know, get up, and she's going down into the galley. And I said, what are you doing? She said, I'm going to see if I can fix it. Well, the self-reliance that you can, I still have that. I have a stopped up sink. Let me see if I can fix that before I call a plumber. I learned a lot on that trip. Yeah.
I know how to fix
That
washing
was my
machine.
I knew
capability.
you were going to do that.
I can do
You
washing
can Google
machines.
it.
I swear YouTube is my friend for fixing things in the houses that we travel and things happen. And you're like, okay, this is, and I will always, I always communicate with the homeowner. I'm like, hey, check this out, you know, and I found this, is this okay? Like, yeah, go for it, try it. And I mean, I did think I've done to this day, I go, okay. And they'll go, okay, you're a girl, you don't need to do the lawnmower. I'm like, no, I want to do it.
Yeah, but
I
wearing
don't
your
want to
shoes.
be, don't tell me because I'm a female that I can't do it. I want to do it.
But you
even
have to
more.
wear your shoes.
I know I have to learn to wear shoes.
Well,
while
yeah,
lawn mowing.
another
I do.
good piece of what you're talking about in terms of getting on a boat and going sailing. There were a lot of people who did not want us to go.
Oh, I'm sure.
Oh, I bet.
There
I'm
were
sure.
a lot of people who said,
Well, it's
you
scary.
can't do this.
Yeah.
You don't know what you're doing. Well, that part was a little true. But, you know, we just said, you know, we're smart people. We'll try to figure it out. We'll make the best decisions that we can make, and we're going to go. So at the goodbye party, people brought little angels to put in, the little tin angels to put in our cockpit to pray over us. But if whatever
funny.
you want to do with your life, I don't think that you're going to have all the support in the world. I think there are going to be people that say, you shouldn't do this, you can't do this.
Oh, yeah.
And you just have to say, sorry, but let me go try. and see if I can.
Well, we
that-
were told not to do a magazine.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, good
And
example.
in our
Yeah,
area,
because-
we did all this market research, and this one lady goes, "Oh, who needs
Yeah,
another magazine?" I went,
Exactly. There's too many, apparently.
Okay.
"Well, that's
You know,
it."
and
So
we're like,
that was
we're
our
doing it.
decision right there and then. Someone said
Yeah.
no, and we were like,
Yeah, we're
"Watch
doing it.
this," you know. So it's a very it is weird, and we can.
Mhm.
If we don't take on challenges, we don't allow ourselves to grow and
Mm.
build. And that's the thing. It's to me, I think it's great that we can live longer because then we can do far more. It gives us that breathing
Get to
space
try
too.
things,
Yeah, it's
you
exciting.
know?
But before you go, all right, favorite cake. We've got to ask.
Yeah, what's your
You're
favorite?
you're in
cake?
Tennessee
Oh,
tea
I have
cake
to
land.
tell you,
Oh my gosh.
here I am saying I love baking cakes. My husband just celebrated a birthday and he asked for an angel food cake.
Mm,
Okay.
Okay.
And I bombed it. I mean, it
Oh.
was a bomb. It was about 3 inches tall.
Uh-oh.
So obviously I looked at him and I said, the next angel
Oopsie.
food your cake is going to get from a box. I mean, 12 egg whites, you're whipping them up. It
Well,
was a
and you
disaster.
probably got a little tiny bit of egg yolk in the whites, and that's what happened. I
Oh,
That's
bet
what
you can-
happened.
Yep,
Oh,
it
was
happens
a mess.
all the time. Yeah.
When I look back, I think that that was a place that I could have pursued, but maybe I'm doing the work that I need to do right now, and I'll go buy cakes.
yeah. But you're in Tennessee, and the
Yeah.
Tennessee tea cakes, there's nothing like a Tennessee tea
Mm.
cake. I'm just
Gotcha.
saying. I'm
Gotcha.
just saying, but it's been a true pleasure having you
It's
on
fun.
the show, and thank you for writing your book. To me,
Mhm.
it's fantastic. I'm enjoying it. Everyone,
Mhm.
go to Your Extraordinary Life After Retirement.com. Again, the book is The 60-Something Crisis: How to Live an Extraordinary Life in Retirement. It's out July 17th, 2022. Again, by Barbara Pagano. Sorry, I
Mhm.
want
There you
to.
go.
I mean, I think you should open a restaurant next.
You think?
That's
Yeah.
yeah, I think so. Why
I
not?
think people should buy the book to give to their children.
Yeah.
I think that is a wonderful idea.
Mhm.
Mhm. It
So
should go
they
in
can
colleges.
begin thinking.
I think it
Yes,
should
it's
go
a,
in
Life.
colleges and high schools. And
yep.
I think, like, to me, I'm in my 40s. I'm in my 30s now. I'm kidding, but
Yeah.
but it helps, when you think about it, because it's coming, that ship, and then you start to panic in your 40s. You can go into a complete spiral. You even talk about that in your book
Mhm.
too, about,
Yeah.
your 40s can be like, have I done everything? And it's like, okay, I'm looking at my friends and they've got grandkids now. And I'm like, holy cow, how did that happen? I
Yeah.
didn't do that. Well, I didn't want to, but I'm like glad for them. But I'm like, you do have these moments in this midlife swimming hole going, okay, am I going to keep treading water, or am I going to move forward? Or do I like where I'm treading water? Like you're saying, if you don't have some challenges, you're going to get bored with yourself. And that really
Mhm.
sucks. Getting bored with yourself is probably one of the
That's
cruelest
not good.
things you can
It's
do
not
to
good.
yourself.
Yeah.
So
not
I
good.
think this is a great book for all ages, honestly.
Thank you. I want to give everybody a chance to get to the end and say, I gave it my best shot. That's
Yeah.
what
Right
I'm.
on. That's it.
Mhm.
We're skidding in, man. I'm telling you, there's going to be stains on my clothes. Don't if you get buried in a clean suit, if you arrived at that point clean, nah,
Nah.
you're gonna get dirt under your fingernails. I'm just
Yeah.
saying. All right. Thank
I
you so
enjoyed
much.
it.
Thank you,
Good.
Barbara. Everyone, keep
Thank
up with
you.
us at bigblendradio.com. Again, every second Wednesday, we have our show with Books Forward, and you can keep up with them at booksforward.com. So thank you all for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you.